Welcome back to Fantasy Football by Committee, powered by Flurry Sports. It can be tough to win a fantasy league on your own, but at FFBC, we will work together to bring home the hardware. Hosted by Zach Bruner and the rest of the Flurry Sports crew, we will give top-level analysis, answer your questions, and, well, go off on other tangents.
That was after I tried to get ChatGPT to admit that 9/11 was an inside job, but it stood firm. It gave quite a few solid points that it was true.
Welcome to Fantasy Football by Committee. The show starts in 3, 2, 1.
Hello. Welcome back to Fantasy Football by Committee. First off, thank you for 11,000 subscribers on YouTube. That's fucking awesome. I appreciate it. And I thank you for anybody else tuning in on any of the other social media as well. I do appreciate everyone who watches. Love it when you guys participate in the chat as well or in the comment sections afterwards. And if you want to ask more questions to myself or other people in the community, including the hosts on the show other than myself, join the Fantasy Football by Committee Facebook group. You can ask questions there all the time. If you're a writer, you can share your own articles there as well. Answer other people's questions, get advice on your own questions, and you can ask questions anonymously, so you do not need to worry about your league mates finding out or anything like that. So definitely go do that. If you're watching on YouTube, there's a link in the description to go do so. But yeah, we are doing a rare Monday live stream. I'm unable to go live tomorrow at the normal time when we usually do waiver wire stuff. And I felt weird about that. I felt weird just not doing anything. So I figured to jump on today, talk a little bit of fantasy football, talk some of the fantasy football news, biggest headlines, go over the most trending players on Sleeper. Obviously, it'll change a little bit after the Monday Night Football game, change a little bit after more people, more leagues are able to put in their waiver wire ads. But maybe a Monday show's better. Let me know about that as well. Would you prefer a Monday talking about waivers versus a Tuesday talking about waivers? Let me know. But let's just jump into it. And of course, if you guys have any questions, any comments, anything, jump in the chat and let me know. But let's talk about the 10 most trending players on Sleeper Fantasy over the past 24 hours. So these are the most added players over the past 24 hours. There are, believe it or not, quite a few leagues that have like no waiver wait time, nothing like that. So, you know, some of these names might be surprising, but there are people who are able to add these players immediately. So the number one most trending player, and it will probably stay this way once more people are able to put waiver wire claims in, I think. But the number one waiver wire ad is Emari Demercado, running back for the Arizona Cardinals, an old rookie. I believe he's 24 years old. Let me check that. Yeah, 24 out of TCU. So maybe that's why you may know his name if you watched college football last year. But yeah, he stepped in for the injured James Conner. We've been talking for months at this point how James Conner was going to be such a good sell high candidate after the first month of the season and that you needed to pay attention to his backup. What happened after 4 weeks? James Conner goes down hurt. We don't know the severity of it yet. I don't expect it to be incredibly serious. I hope not, at least. But he did leave the game with a knee injury. Initially, entering the year, it seemed like his backup was going to be Keontae Ingram. Ingram has been battling injuries himself, so it's been Demercado who's been the backup there. Obviously, James Conner was the bell cow. We knew James Conner being a bell cow would lead to him getting injured. It did so. Demercado comes in last week, played 77% of the snaps, had 10 carries for 45 yards and a touchdown, saw 3 targets as well. And next week, it's not the greatest matchup by any stretch of the imagination, but he plays the Rams. If James Conner misses, seems like there's a decent chance of that, then Demercado may be the bell cow. I wouldn't be surprised to see another running back sign there, but Ingram may not be healthy, so maybe Demercado and I don't know, is Corey Clement still there? Like, it's pretty much nothing. And if you have a running back who's going to see the bulk of the snaps, the bulk of the touches, that's valuable, especially as bye weeks pick up. So number one most trending player being Demercado makes sense. And I wouldn't go crazy with Fab or anything with him. But if you're in need of a bye week fill-in, if you're in need of depth after all of these injuries and shit, like you can definitely go and pick him up. Bronson has a question. Let's talk about this before we talk about more trending players. Would you trade Amon-Ra and Michael Thomas for Stephon Diggs? No, I would not. That's interesting, actually. It was an impulse there, but maybe there's a chance we're going to hear a lot more about that Amon-Ra injury this week. There's a chance that it's diagnosed as a hernia. And at that point, like he could play through it. He could get surgery and miss a month. So assuming you're fine and you're not playing Michael Thomas in your lineup right now, I'm guessing he's probably your fourth guy or something like that. If that's the case, I would do it. If somehow Michael Thomas is your third guy in the 3 wide receiver league, then I'm probably not doing it. But assuming you're just upgrading that starter, your wide receiver 1, possibly wide receiver 2 to Stephon Diggs, don't need Michael Thomas. So yeah, I think I would do that actually. Right away, I was thinking no, but because I think Michael Thomas has value going forward, not saying he's startable every week going forward, but I think he has value. But I am kind of nervous about that Amon-Ra injury. I think, in a vacuum, week by week basis, I think Amon-Ra and Diggs are probably equals, but there's a chance he misses a month plus. I hope not. I truly don't know. So yeah, I would do that. I would do that trade. Not a bad one. Ralph, with the Justin Jefferson injury, can we confidently start Gabe Davis? No, we cannot confidently do it. May you be forced to? May a lot of people be forced to? Yes, but man, I think he is a bigger part of the offense this year, a bigger and more consistent part of the offense this year than last year prior. Everybody, by all accounts, that was one of the biggest things they kept mentioning prior to the season beginning. Gabe Davis, one of the most talented and popular players on the team. We got to get him more involved. He's a captain, if I'm correct. I think he's a captain. He for sure has like the team bonding nights at his house multiple times a week. Like he is well liked by everybody, and by all accounts, a young, talented guy. So they do want to use him. Can you confidently start him? No, but I wouldn't think of him as last year's Gabe Davis. I think he's a step above that at least. Can he be he wouldn't be a reliable wide receiver 2 for me. Like he would be more in the wide receiver 3 range probably. But yeah, that's about where he's at for me. And I suppose there's a chance they start using Dalton Kincaid a bit more, which I think would eat into Gabe Davis more than anybody else. But I don't know. I'm not a Kincaid guy, despite him being labeled as Travis Kelce before he stepped foot on a field. Weird how that was a stupid thing for people to say. Carlito's way. Who's the better running back waiver wire ad, Spears or Demercado, short or long term? I mean, short term, it might be Demercado, but for sure, long term, it's no question it's Spears. And if you have Derrick Henry, it's for sure Spears. And I think I would go Spears no matter what. But short term, if you need somebody as a spot start for this week, that's the reason you would go Demercado. I don't think he's going to suddenly become a thing. Maybe this will be a video shared on fantasy receipts or freezing cold takes or anything. I just don't see Demercado emerging as like a fantasy stud bell cow down the stretch. Even in a bell cow role, I don't think he's going to be insane. But Spears, we've already seen Titans love him. He is especially valuable in the receiving game. The Titans seem like they're going to be trailing quite a bit. And he's been great by all accounts. I really like him. So my vote would be Spears. The only reason I go Demercado is bye weeks, injuries, whatever, and you need somebody to start in your lineup this week. Browner. Would I do this trade? Receive Tony Pollard, Chargers defense, Romeo Doubs, give Chris Olave, Brian Robinson, Eagles defense. I don't think so. If I'm super stacked at wide receiver, maybe. I understand Chris Olave is dealing with, it appears to be a calf issue, something like that, lower leg. But I mean, I talked about last week how he's a buy low for me. He continues to be a buy low for me. He was limited this week because of that injury, but he was fourth coming into the week in air yards, and like he's going to this person asking this question is 1 in 4. But he's been utilized. It's just been Derek Carr's missed him. So I think once the connection happens, then he's going to be great. So I don't want to give up Chris Olave, and like getting Chargers defense does nothing. I love Romeo Doubs as a player, but I can't imagine you would ever confidently start him. So yeah, going to Tony Pollard isn't like now your team's fixed. So I wouldn't do that. Ralph, let me go back to your question earlier. Oh, the Gabe Davis question. I have Dotson. Do we drop and pick up somebody like Curtis Samuel or anybody else? I'll talk about Curtis Samuel in a second, because I do see he is the 4th most trending player, which is kind of interesting. Like he's just incredibly steady, and people are catching on, I suppose. But man, like I said, Curtis Samuel is very steady, and I don't think he's ever going to lose you a week. I don't know if I want to drop Dotson for him, though. Like, I want to believe Dotson can get used consistently. I want to believe that, because he's for sure more talented than Curtis Samuel. I love Curtis Samuel, but man, I mean, what you can do, depending on your league, depending on everybody else's situation, I would drop my kicker, pick up Curtis Samuel, or pick up the number 1 waiver priority player that people are wanting in your league. I don't value kickers very highly. I think you can stream them very, very easily. This is a strategy I use in every one of my leagues. I think it's the best league-winning strategy. You drop your kicker every single week. You pick up the top priority waiver person, and then you can trade them, or you can just drop them prior to the week starting so no one can play them and be an asshole, and then pick up the kicker you want. That's what I would do. But I'm saying this because you can pick up somebody and then maybe do a package trade, a 2-for-1 to upgrade somewhere. And then at that point, you free up that roster spot, you pick your kicker back up, you're good to go. Like that's what I would be trying to do. I'd be trying to trade. Sure, you could pick up Curtis Samuel. Sure, he'd be okay. But I mean, that doesn't fix Justin Jefferson, right? And I mean, honestly, to be completely honest, I don't think he's even on this trending here. No, he's not on the trending list at all. Like if Justin Jefferson misses time, look to see if Addison's available. He probably isn't, but KJ Osborne's been seeing more snaps and everything than Addison anyway. Like I would try to pick up KJ Osborne personally. Tanner, would you trade Amari Cooper for Deebo Samuel? Wide receiver for wide receiver trade. Don't love it. I just hate trades like this. Like, okay, so who do I value higher rest of season, essentially is what this is. And I suppose I would rather have Amari Cooper just because I think he's going to be slightly more consistent. And that's about it. So I would not do that trade. Thanks for everybody asking questions, by the way. Iceberg got offered Kyron Williams and Devontae Smith for Joe Mixon and Aaron Jones. Thoughts? Assuming you're very good at running back and that's not your running back 1 and 2. Assuming that's the case, I like the trade. Aaron Jones, I love. I think he's a top 5 most talented running back in the NFL. But Matt LaFleur is a terrible, terrible coach. This is coming from someone who knows multiple people in the Packer building. Packer analyst, Packer insider, been quoted on ESPN for Packer Inside News, breaking news, essentially, et cetera, et cetera. But like the Packers are going to continue to use A.J. Dillon in the red zone and just get stopped because A.J. Dillon sucks, which makes me nervous about Aaron Jones. Couple that with injuries, couple that with Aaron Jones took a pay cut to stay, and they would probably like to keep that player around. A.J. Dillon, they could theoretically run into the ground to either get a cheaper contract on a contract year here or just kick him out the door, let him go. So if I can get rid of Aaron Jones for a good price, which is what this is, I would do it. Joe Mixon, I think is fine. I think he's good. Kyren Williams, I think is good. And if you're able to upgrade that wide receiver position without really sacrificing at running back, that's how you win leagues. So I do like that. I would do that trade. Assuming, again, that's not your running back 1 and 2, and then you're fucked at running back. With Jefferson's injury, do we try to pick up Jordan Addison? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Obviously, this is on a delay. Yeah. Let's see what his ownership is quickly on Sleeper. Because I feel like his ownership has to be very high, and that's why he's not one of the biggest pickups. 88%. Okay, so yeah. If he's available to you, absolutely. He should be, like, he may be number 1 waiver priority if he is available to you. But he's only available in 12% of sleeper leagues. ESPN's probably a little bit bigger. I can check that right now. Let's see. Jordan Addison is rostered in 82% of ESPN leagues, so available in 18%. But yeah, if he's out there, he should be number 1 waiver priority. He's going to see a ton of targets. He's obviously very, very talented. The only thing that's really been holding him back has been the lack of snaps. He has been outsnapped by KJ Osborne multiple times, been used behind KJ Osborne multiple times, but now those two will be on the field together. I think both of them should be picked up for fantasy. I think they're both talented in their respective roles. And if Justin Jefferson misses a bit of time, which it seems like he will, because I can't remember, it must have been a Kevin O'Connell quote, but someone said that they are thinking big picture with the Justin Jefferson injury. And you only say that if we're not saying, okay, we need to get him back so we can start winning games. I mean, they're 1-4. They suck. And they may have to start selling people. Kirk Cousins is on a contract year. It would behoove the Vikings to keep Justin Jefferson out, work on a contract extension, trade Kirk Cousins, lose a bunch of games, draft, one of the top quarterbacks to play with, Justin Jefferson and KJ Osborne. Justin Jefferson, KJ Osborne, I suppose, but I meant Jordan Addison, TJ Hawkinson, et cetera, et cetera. You can make that big Justin Jefferson extension work if you have one of those super talented, cheap rookie deal contracts there. So that's what I would do if I was the Vikings. And again, all that means is I'm not rushing Justin Jefferson back. I mean, fuck it. Put him on short-term IR. Keep him out a month. That's what I would do. Will that happen? I don't know. But the fact that they are thinking big picture suggests it is more week to week and not day to day. That would be my guess of what we see going forward this week. When is the Vikings bye week? Maybe that'll tell us something. Week 13. So it's a ways away. It is a ways away. But yeah. I mean, shit. You know what would be fun? Let's just project this into the ether here, into whatever we want to say. Let's say Kirk Cousins gets traded this week. Where would he get traded? That makes sense. Let's say he gets traded to Atlanta, because obviously they have some quarterback issues there. So now he's the starter for Atlanta. Is this a possibility? Sure. Is this strongly going to happen? I'm not saying yes, but let's just say that happens. And then you can bring Justin Jefferson back for week 9 at Atlanta playing against Kirk Cousins. So then it would be what? Nick Mullins versus Kirk Cousins? Week 9? I love it. I love it. Let's do that. That makes sense to me. But yeah. Justin Jefferson probably out for a hot second. Let's look at the other trending players since we went through one. Logan Thomas, number 2. Logan Thomas is a player, obviously, we hyped up a shit ton last week. Truthfully, last several years, we've talked a lot about Logan Thomas. He is the red zone guy for Washington, given the size of the other receivers and the roles and everything like that. With this new offensive system, they utilize the tight end. Logan Thomas is very smart, very good, former quarterback, knows where he needs to be on the field, which is a skill that a lot of the best tight ends have, obviously. Take a look at Travis Kelce. But Logan Thomas's only issue was health. He's healthy right now. He was one of the streamers, one of the best tight ends I talked about last week on flurrysports.org. So definitely go read those articles every single week if you want to stay up to date on this. And Logan Thomas balled out. He did exactly what he was supposed to do. The Logan Thomas touchdown prop bet hit. And he had 11 targets, played 79% of the snaps in back-to-back weeks. And I think he's a good play going forward. I mean, he plays Atlanta this week. That doesn't scare me. He plays the Giants the week after. That doesn't scare me. And then the Eagles, which isn't terribly scary either. So, yeah. Logan Thomas being the number 2 most trending player on Sleeper makes sense to me. Bye week's coming up. You need a bye week fill, and I think Logan Thomas is more than capable. And yeah. Again, I'm not going crazy for Logan Thomas. I don't think he is a positional advantage for you or like a league winner, but I think he's solid. And then his teammate Curtis Samuel, we already talked about. He's the 3rd most trending player. He's going to be very steady like he was last year. I think he finished as wide receiver like 35 or something last year. Very quietly. A very quietly steady, solid season. Does it say what his ranking is here? No, it doesn't. But yeah, it was something like that. Wide receiver 35 or something. But, he sees around 60 to 70% of the snaps. He gets about 50 yards. He's had 50 plus yards in 4 or 5 games this year. He got that touchdown last week, which vaulted his value. He got a touchdown. I believe he recovered the fumble for a touchdown the week prior, which again vaults his value. To me, he's like in PPR around a 10-point guy every week, 8 to 10 points. If you need that in your lineup, go for it. I don't think he'll ever be more than that consistently. He needs that touchdown, which I think is very unpredictable, but I think he's solid. I think he's fine. Number 4, Jaleel McLaughlin. Talked about him. Obviously, we have a video on our YouTube channel about him last week. Big article on Flurry Sports about the Javonte Williams injury and the McLaughlin fantasy value as well. They play on a short week. I assume Javonte Williams will play this week. I think he was just held out because of the short week. They'd rather have him against the Chiefs than against the Jets. So, downgrade McLaughlin in your mind because of that. However, like I said in the article, the video, and all of the above, I think, like Sean Payton plays favorites to a fault. And this rookie, McLaughlin, is one of his favorites. So he's going to be on the field. He's going to be used. And I think as the season rolls along, there's a strong chance he works up to around a 50-50 split, right? But even last week, with Javonte Williams out, he played the same number of snaps as the week prior, which, yes, he had a good day. He had a good day, 9 carries for 68 yards, still only 9 carries. And then he had that touchdown, 21 yards receiving and a touchdown. So touchdowns through the air back-to-back weeks. I think he can be a pretty good receiving weapon as well. Obviously, Samaje Perine, a good receiving weapon. Samaje Perine, a better pass blocker. Maybe that's why he was on the field more often. But yeah, McLaughlin is nothing more than a flex with upside going forward. Truthfully, I think it's going to be a 3-way split still starting this week because I think Javonte Williams is back. And then, he played a third of the snaps with Javonte Williams out. So limit your upside. I think he's very talented. I think Sean Payton loves him. So I don't think he's going to disappear but this isn't the guy you need to go crazy for. He's going to be limited. He has to be limited. Has to be. Not has to be, but he's going to be limited. A third of the snaps with the starter out shouldn't get you excited. Look at snap counts. Look at stuff like that for more context. Don't just look at the fantasy point output and make your judgments on Jaleel McLaughlin. Love him as a player, as a fantasy player. Pump the brakes a little bit. Flex with upside, and not even really a high-end flex. He's like a low-end flex, and you hope he scores a touchdown. Should I pick Josh Palmer or Quentin Johnston? Asks George. Obviously, we have that video a couple of weeks ago about which player should you pick up between those two. I said Josh Palmer for the short term, and then I thought they would use the bye week to get Quentin Johnston a little more involved, a little more up to speed, get some plays, in motion that get him the ball specifically. I think that will happen. Which player would I rather have going forward? Assuming you don't have to start that player this week, I would want Johnston. I think he for sure has more potential. First round pick, right? They want him to flourish in this offense. I just wasn't very excited about him coming out of college. Again, I said this in the video. I got shit for it. I said it on draft night. I got shit for it. I've only been proved right, but that's fine. Like, he is a big receiver who plays small. He is not very good at creating separation. He doesn't really use his size very well. And this is all stuff from college, right? And then now he plays in the NFL, bigger, faster, stronger defenders. He needs to learn how to play NFL football. And I think that's going to be a progression. It's going to be a work in progress. I think he can do it. He's just not there yet. So I think he's a long-term ad. But if you're saying which player is going to perform better this week, next week, and you need to start them, then I'm still going to go Josh Palmer. I think Josh Palmer is a better player right now. So short-term Palmer, long-term Johnston. Browner. What do we do with Garrett Wilson? Very good question. If I'm able to replace Olave by Wilson in the Pollard trade, should I do it? So it would be Dobbs, Pollard, Chargers for Garrett Wilson, Brian Robinson, Eagles defense. You would be giving away, obviously, the second side. I think I like that more. Not a lot more. Like, I still like Garrett Wilson. I mean, depending on who's available in your league, I would try to swap out that Chargers defense and get something better. Even if you have to swap out both Chargers and Dobbs to upgrade that wide receiver spot that you're getting in return, that's what I think I would try to do. Because obviously going to Pollard, that's good, right? I don't think it's crazy good. He hasn't been performing that well. I mean, hell, Brian Robinson's kind of been outperforming him already anyway. It doesn't. I know you're 1-3, but it just doesn't feel like a trade you have to make. I don't think you're very clearly a better team after this trade. I understand wanting to do it. If you're able to swap out Chargers D and upgrade, swap out Chargers D and Dobbs and upgrade, that's what I would do. So he asks, am I losing this trade if I was to do it? I don't know if you're necessarily losing it. I think it's equal. I just don't think you're better. I don't think you're better. I think Pollard should get better. Has he done it yet? No. And then Dobbs, I think, is the wide receiver 1 in Green Bay, in my personal opinion, because he's a better player. But he's not going to be reliable. Garrett Wilson, is he reliable? I mean, that's who you're trading away. I don't know, but he's certainly more talented. And then Brian Robinson, I think his role is pretty reliable. So, I mean, how big of an upgrade is going from Brian Robinson to Tony Pollard? That's the question. And it doesn't seem like a massive upgrade. I think you can do it, but I really would try to upgrade that second wide receiver or the wide receiver in the trade. I would swap out Dobbs and Chargers D for something else, even if you have to add something another bench piece of yours or something. You know, I want a clear upgrade. Let's talk about the final 5 quickly in the most trending players on Sleeper over the past 24 hours, or final 6, I guess. Number 5 is Zach Moss. Jonathan Taylor comes back. Jonathan Taylor gets a big contract extension. Zach Moss says, fuck you, and runs for over 100 yards. So, I mean, he needs to be owned. He needs to be owned. And if he continues to play at this high of a level, they have to play him. I would assume it's a hot hand approach. And Taylor's going to be mixed in far more, obviously. But Zach Moss saw 80% of the snaps. He saw 23 carries, 2 targets. He's probably, when everything settles and water finds its level, he's probably a 10 to 12 touch guy. And I would project Jonathan Taylor to be let's call it a 15 touch guy, around that. Like, I think Jonathan Taylor's value comes down a little bit because of how good Zach Moss has been. But Zach Moss is probably a flex with upside, low-end RB2 every single week going forward. So I do not mind that pickup at all. Gardner Minshew is number 6, and Gardner Minshew is going to be the quarterback for the Colts for a while. He is, I mean, first off, that's an upgrade to all the Colts pass catchers, obviously. Anthony Richardson, AC joint sprain. The man is made of glass, has played in 4 or 5 games this year, finished 1. I love Anthony Richardson. I think he's a very talented player, but boy, like, this is already going terribly. He needs to, I don't know what they need to do. Like, he even slid on one of the plays to try to keep himself fresh and whatever. Beside the point, AC joint sprain. He's getting a second opinion today. It sounds like a relatively severe one. It doesn't seem like it's a week-to-week thing. Like, it seems like there's a chance he goes on IR. I know the most recent quote was they're waiting. They don't want to put him on IR, but it feels like he's going to be out at least a month. Because why would you bring him back if he's not 100%? That would be the stupidest fucking thing of all time. For a player who continues to get hurt game after game after game, no reason to bring him back quickly. The Colts have a week 11 bye. So if he stayed out until after the bye, that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games, 6 weeks out. That makes more sense to me than anything. And even if they kept him out for 1 more week after that, so then he comes back to play the Titans, a divisional game, fine. The Colts really don't have that many divisional games to end the year, which is weird. But yeah, I mean, if you're in need of a quarterback, you have a quarterback playing shitty, you have a quarterback hurt like Anthony Richardson. It feels like Minshew is going to be the starter for at least a month. So plan accordingly. If that is worth it to you, then obviously he's the top quarterback waiver guy. But again, he's not a must add. He's not a top 12 guy for me, but he's a serviceable player. Number 7, Tyjae Spears. Talked about him a little bit earlier. A lot of questions about him last week, and it just seemed like he was obviously great handcuff with upside, one of the best handcuffs in the league. This week, he did a little more damage. He finally found the end zone, so that obviously helps his fantasy value. 50, he's played over half the snaps in 4 or 5 games. So, I mean, that's what he is. He's a rookie that the Titans love. They love him enough to limit Henry's snaps, obviously, in a year where the Titans aren't necessarily contending. It makes sense to limit Henry's snaps so they can either trade him or keep him around for next year and not hurt him. Tyjae Spears especially good in the receiving game. Obviously, hurry up offense. They are passing at the end of the game to just try to win or whatever the case may be. He's the guy in there, not Derrick Henry. Titans not a good football team, so they'll probably be playing from behind quite a bit. I think Tyjae Spears, again, flex with upside. Low-end flex in the weeks that Derrick Henry's playing. Very low-end flex, but he kind of needs to be owned. And they have a week 7 bye. Could Derrick Henry be traded to a contender then? Could he voice his displeasure because he wants to win football games at this point in his career, wants to compete for a Super Bowl? Very, very possible. If that's the case, I would assume Spears takes on a very large role. So he's a speculative ad. If you have a spot on your bench, he is one of the better pickups this week. He is not a pickup to pick up and play. I'm not picking him up, trying to put him in my lineup this week. But if you can sit and wait and see, I love Spears. I love it. Let's talk about three more really quickly. Josh Reynolds for the Lions. Like I said earlier, Amon-Ra, we need to see what is going on with his injury. It could end up being labeled a hernia. We don't know. If that's the case, will he play through it? If he plays through it, I think Amon-Ra is going to be fine. I don't think he's great, but for all Reynolds purposes, then I'm lowering him. But Amon-Ra could opt to get surgery and come back at the end of the year. And at that point, Josh Reynolds is going to be one of the better Lions receivers to own, possibly the best one, even over Jameson Williams. I think it's possible. So again, I mean, he's more than a speculative ad. Like, he could be your wide receiver 3 this week if Amon-Ra is out. So don't mind Josh Reynolds. Josh Downs is the number 9 most trending player. And we've seen Gardner Minshew target him quite a bit. He was targeted by Anthony Richardson as well in this game, but he's running a lot of easy routes for the quarterback, and he is very, very good. He can create separation. Josh Downs is an absolute stud. In PPR leagues is where he's going to thrive the most. I think he has very low touchdown upside, but I could see him start to get peppered with targets, especially given the matchups over the next few weeks. Jaguars, Browns, Saints, Panthers. Certainly the underneath target for Josh Downs could be the choice for Gardner Minshew. So PPR leagues, I think he could be a wide receiver 4, maybe low end 3, but yardage wise, he's not going to be huge, and touchdown wise, I don't expect much. So, limit expectations a little bit. And then number 10 is AJ Dillon. Obviously playing tonight. Sounds like Aaron Jones probably won't play because the Packers have a bye week afterwards. AJ Dillon has a wide open lane and he trips over his own feet. AJ Dillon looks like a power runner, but he plays like Darren Sproles in terms of running the football, not in terms of receiving ability. AJ Dillon's not very good at football. He's just not that good. So even if Aaron Jones is out, he is not a guy I need to start. Could he play well against the Raiders tonight? Absolutely. The Raiders are dog shit, but AJ Dillon is too. So yeah, obviously you're not picking him up to play him next week because there's a bye week. So limit expectations. I'll also talk about D'Onta Foreman really quickly. D'Onta Foreman's number 11 on Sleeper's trending list. Sounds like Khalil Herbert's going to be out for multiple weeks. The rookie, Roschon Johnson, who's very good, he should be picked up if he is available for you. But he suffered a concussion, so, obviously a chance he misses. And if that's the case, then D'Onta Foreman, who has been healthy scratches the past several weeks, may be the featured running back against the Vikings. And then regardless, it sounds like he's going to have a role against the Vikings, the Raiders, the Chargers, which are very, very good matchups. So, yeah, D'Onta Foreman needs to be picked up, and he may be a good fantasy play again. We got to watch the injury report, but if he is the guy and Johnson and Herbert are both out, I mean, Foreman's going to be a top 15 running back for me if that would be the case. So go check him out. Other trending players, nothing crazy. Nothing crazy. Jonnu Smith is there. Obviously, pick him up. Jaden Reed for the Packers tonight. He's solid. I don't think you need to pick him up. Sam Howell's there. Who's he play next week? Atlanta. He's a good pickup. Atlanta, Giants, Philly. Like that little stretch. Okay. Back to the chat here. Ralph is 5-0. Congrats to you. Should we just hold on and not make any moves? It's not like anyone is willing to help me out. I won last year. You're the one with the Justin Jefferson issue. I wouldn't panic. I wouldn't panic to make moves. So, yeah, if no one's going to help you out, you got to at least wait until someone's desperate. The only person who would help you out is the person who's 0-5 or 1-4. So check out, get some feelers with those people in your league. But you're not going to be making a trade with the 3-2, the 4-1 player, I would assume. Kevin is down 5.6, had Aaron Jones, but since he's inactive, should I start Emmanuel Wilson or Abdullah on the Raiders? I think I'm dumb, but I'm just trying to get a second opinion. I love Emmanuel Wilson, but it doesn't seem the Packers are going to use him very often. What I would do, I think Abdullah is a very sneaky play tonight. The Packers are incapable of covering running backs as receivers out of the backfield. And if the Raiders do use him tonight, obviously Justin Jefferson's the bell cow, or Josh Jacobs is the bell cow. They're even using him in the receiving game as well. I think Jacobs catches probably 4 or 5 passes tonight. But if they go hurry up, if they just want to give the Packers different looks and they have Abdullah in there and they do try to use him as a receiver, they will be successful in doing so. I can guarantee that. So especially in PPR, go with him. Go with him. Definitely a sneaky play. Bronson trade Logan Thomas and Russell Wilson for Kittle. Yeah. I love Kittle. I think he's going to be inconsistent, but so is every tight end not named Travis Kelce, essentially. So, yeah, I like it. Down 11 is Sam with Devontae. Do I win? I think so. We have heard all week it's Jair Alexander versus Devontae Adams. Devontae Adams is hurt. Hopefully he plays. Then, he's going to play. Spoiler alert. But we've been hyping up that matchup all week. And let me tell you, I'm almost guaranteeing Jair Alexander doesn't cover Devontae Adams in the first quarter. This is just what the Packers do. They will have him on the opposite side of the field. Devontae will go nuclear to start the game, and then they'll put Jair on there, and then it'll be a good battle. So, will you win in PPR? I think so. I love me some Devontae Adams, and he is... Devontae Adams is the most talented wide receiver in the NFL. I don't think that's even a question. I think he's better at wide receiver than Jair is at cornerback. This is a Packer fan. This is someone who's watched every snap of both of their careers. Jair's going to get his tonight. He will have some plays, but I don't think he just shuts down Devontae Adams. I don't think that's possible. So I think you will be good. You are welcome, Kevin. Is there anything else we should talk about? Is there any notifications on my phone of anything crazy that we need to talk about? Matt Milano had surgery. Elijah Vera-Tucker's out for the Jets. That blows. Vera-Tucker's very, very good. Achilles, so something in the water over there, right? But yeah, he's an absolute stud. So Breece Hall, by the way, I don't think that's a fluke. I think it's a product of the matchup a little bit as well, but he's insane. No, Vera-Tucker hurts a lot because those inside zones with Breece Hall are crazy. They're crazy. Those cutbacks he has are insane. Like that's where he makes his money. That's where he blows up plays. And a lot of that is because of Vera-Tucker. So I don't think that is I don't think we need to brush that off, right? Offensive line injury, who cares? He's a stud. He's very good. Devon Achane is injured, going to be evaluated for a knee injury. I don't know. I said last week's a sell high. He's still a sell high. He's going to be unpredictable. How many snaps did he have last week? I know he didn't carry the ball very much. Like, if you want to project him to break every single run, then sure. But he played 48% of the snaps last week, 11 carries. Week before that, 8 carries. Week before that was the Denver game. He got 18. I think he's extremely talented. Extremely talented. But now he's banged up, and Jeff Wilson's coming back soon, I assume. And if that turns into a 3-headed monster there, it's going to be unpredictable. So if you can still sell high on A-Chain, I would do it. You would have to get RB1 value, but I would do it if you can. The knee injury news certainly hurts a little bit. Sam has Cup. Where do I think he ranks rest of season? I mean, overall, there's no question, by the way. If he remains healthy and Stafford remains healthy, there's no question he's a top 5 guy. Period. Now, where do I actually rank him? I would probably rank him not like much lower. Like he's probably a 7 wide receiver. He's for sure a wide receiver 1, categorically. I'd rank him as a top 10 guy no matter what. Like his role on that team's insane. And if you were a Puka Nacua owner, sell high after this performance. I understand the news reports. Oh, I think there's enough passes for everybody. That's fine and dandy. But he's not going to score a touchdown very often. He's going to be probably a 5 to 7 target guy more often than not. And if you can sell him off of this touchdown performance with Cooper Kupp also going off, fucking do it. Because he is not a wide receiver 1, which I think a lot of people still think he can be. No chance. I would struggle ranking him as a wide receiver 2. Like, if you can sell Puka, do it. Absolutely do it right now. Sell high. Please. For the love of God. Like, his role comes down. I understand they play different roles. You're banking on Stafford staying healthy. You're banking on him getting targets. 2 very big things, and I don't think either happen. Stafford took a massive shot this week, too. Liam. I traded away. Huh. There he is there. So let's talk about it. Traded away Kittle, DJ Moore, and Puka. I assume it's DJ Moore. We'll see. And Gibbs for Kelsey, Ayuk, Godwin, and Breece Hall. Did I win? Yes. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Breece Hall's a stud. He also has Justin Jefferson and Devontae. Running backs are Kamara, Gibbs, and Sanders before the trade. So, yeah, definitely needed to make a move to improve your running backs, which I think you did. Going from any tight end to Kelsey, even with the injury, I think is awesome. And I think Ayuk's good and Godwin is steady. Godwin, for whatever reason, is kind of undervalued right now. So, yeah, you won for sure. That's a good trade. And I think on face value, a lot of people would say that looks even. So that's a very, very good trade. What do I think about Breece as of right now? Yeah. Obviously, this is written a little bit prior. But I love Breece Hall. So I think there's no doubt he's a top 5 most talented running back in the NFL, possibly top 3. Top 3, not 3. He might be number 2. Yeah, with that Elijah Vera Tucker injury, I think it's a really big deal. I really do. The cutbacks are just not going to be there on the interior. But, he almost had 200 yards this week. Do I think he's that going forward? No. But I think I'm going to rank him around. I think he's going to be ranked as a low-end RB1 every single week for me. I think he's too good. He makes something out of nothing. He makes chicken salad out of chicken shit so much. Breece Hall, yes. Breece Hall over Brian Robinson rest of season for me, yes. My worry with him, and it's a worry I have with a lot of players, including Alvin Kamara, who we just talked about. Obviously, he kind of shut me up a little bit this week. But I worry a little bit about Breece Hall's touchdown upside. That would be my only thing. Like, I think he's going to see a bunch of touches. I think he's going to get a bunch of yards. I think he's going to get touches in a variety of ways, meaning I think he catches a lot of passes. Obviously, I'm not breaking any news. I'm not giving any insane insight by saying that, right? They need to get him involved early and often in a variety of ways. I just don't know how often he's going to be in scoring position. Now, if he cracks off those 72-yard runs like he did this week, he's always in scoring position. But, yeah, he's going to be around the 100-yard mark every single week. I think. Total yard mark. Hopefully he gets a touchdown for you. But I love him. I think he's still going to be good. Slight downgrade with the Vera Tucker injury. However, I think the Jets' offensive line, especially for run blocking, they have some dogs. They have some really good players there. So they'll still be okay. Sam, my team is Justin Fields, Saquon, David Montgomery, Cooper Kupp, and Tay and Kelsey. Collins at the flex. What do you rank this team out of 10? Why can't I think of who Collins? Oh, Nico Collins. What do I rank it out of 10? I would rank it. I assume it's PPR. Yeah, PPR. It's like an 8. It's like an 8. I think Justin Fields' rest of season is still good. They did exactly what I said they would do. For whatever reason, they just wanted to make him a pocket passer again. They reverted to that, and it made no sense. This past week, they started to get him on the move. They changed the release point on all of his passes. It makes a lot more sense. So I think he's going to be a lot better rest of season. Hopefully he stays healthy. That's going to be the biggest thing. He took a bunch of shots already last week. If he can stay healthy and Saquon can get and stay healthy, your team's at 10. That's just a big if with Saquon, right? We've seen Saquon struggle behind a bad offensive line before. I think this offensive line's getting too much heat, personally, but they're not good by any stretch of the imagination. People don't understand what offensive line responsibilities are, which is why Evan Neal's getting torched. Like, Evan Neal's getting unrightfully... He's had not a great year, but like this past week, that clip of him not blocking the end or whatever wasn't on him. Brad, 10-man PPR, Trevor Lawrence, Purdy, Swift, Jones, Brian Robinson, Justin Jefferson, Kupp, Hawk, Godwin, Dobbs. Do I stay with this team or try to make some trades? And what would I upgrade? I wonder what people's overall perception is of Trevor Lawrence. I am notably lower on him, so that's why I ask. But I think there's people who are high on him, and I think there's going to be people who think he gets really good at the end of the year because of all the weapons in this offense. And if there's people in your league, especially because it's a 10-man, there's going to be people available on waivers. You don't need to carry 2 quarterbacks. I think you could possibly package Trevor Lawrence with somebody and upgrade at running back. That might be the move. Obviously, Justin Jefferson getting hurt blows right now, but I'm also not sold on DeAndre Swift for whatever it's worth. Not him as a player, but we heard Sirianni come out after week 1 and just say this offense is going to be unpredictable for running backs. There's going to be weeks where DeAndre Swift doesn't touch the ball, and there's going to be weeks where he goes off. Now, after that comment, he had a few weeks where he went off, and everyone's just assuming he's the RB1 going forward. And I think we need to take him at his word. I think this offense is going to be relatively inconsistent with the running backs. So if you can sell DeAndre Swift for RB1 value, I think I would do that. I think you can get somebody more predictable with just as good of an output for you. And if somehow you could go Trevor Lawrence, DeAndre Swift for clear RB1 and another very good player, I would love to do that. I would love it. Gibbs, would I trade ETN for Pittman, Rashad White, or Gibbs? His choice, and $15 a fab, I assume. No, I don't think I would. It depends on how crucial and valuable fab is in your league. Assuming it's a 100 or a 200 even, and you still have some left. I don't really think that's crazy. And ETN's a top 5 guy, possibly top 5 running back rest of season. I don't think Rashad White gets there. Pittman sees an upgrade with Gardner Minshew, but he's still a wide receiver 2 at best. And Gibbs is Gibbs. Like he again, touchdown upside. Oh, actual cash. Interesting. I mean, it depends on how bad you're hurting, I suppose. I mean, if you need that $15, you need that $15, no judgment. I still don't think I would do it though. Gibbs, again, touchdown upside's relatively low. He'll do most of his damage between the 20s for his entirety. It seems like he's not really a red zone guy. Kind of like Alvin Kamara. He's not really a red zone guy. So yeah, I would prefer ETN personally than those players. But if you need that $15, if I had to trade for one of them, I should say, I think, and assuming you are equal at wide receiver and running back afterwards, like in a vacuum, I'd probably trade for Rashad White, but I'd much rather have ETN. Much rather. Anything else? I appreciate everyone who's come hung out on an unscheduled stream here, just talking fantasy football. I don't know if there's any other news that wasn't really covered. Let me refresh and see if anything has popped up. Travis Kelce, a DNP on the estimated practice report today. Obviously, they play the Broncos on Thursday, so we will know Travis Kelce's situation at least. If he doesn't play, you can figure out something else for Sunday, so that's good. Wouldn't be surprising to see him sit against the Broncos. Cardinals just claimed Tony Jones off waivers. That's interesting. Tony Jones isn't, especially because his name is just very bland. He's not a guy who's going to excite you, but I assume James Conner's out. And I assume Tony Jones sees maybe half of the running back work, truthfully. I think he's a relatively talented guy. So we just talked about Demercado as the number one most trending player on Sleeper. And the Cardinals signed Tony Jones. I'm not spending a ton of fab on Demercado. I'll tell you that much. Tony Jones might be younger than Demercado. Let me look really quick. That actually might be a fun fact here. No, 1 year older. Tony Jones, third year in the NFL, 1 year older than the rookie Demercado. Week 2, Tony Jones, half the snaps, scored 2 touchdowns for the Saints. He's an ad for sure, by the way. Again, I'm not going crazy with either player for fab, but like I said, when the Jerome Ford situation happened and people thought it was a terrible take, at that point, people were freaking out about Jerome Ford. And I said I would much rather spend 2% of my fab on Kareem Hunt than 50+% on Jerome Ford. I don't think anyone's spending 50+% of their fab on Demercado. I hope not. But I would much rather spend 2% or 1% on Tony Jones than even 10% maybe on Demercado. So maybe that'll tell you what I think of those two guys. Okay. Last few questions, send them in, and then we're going to hop off here. Here's my other 12-man. My teams are solid, but Herbert was my RB2 and got hurt. What kind of trades would you look for? He's going to type his team. Okay. Khalil Herbert got hurt, obviously. I'll jump to your question in a second. Priceless Pigeon, would you trade Atwell and Gerald Everett for Jacoby Myers? The other guy has a horrible tight end. Everett's my backup. Atwell is in the flex, but Meyer would replace 20-man PPR. Assuming you're not fully screwed at tight end afterwards, I would do it. Everett's your backup tight end. You probably could pick up somebody who's relatively equal to Everett. So, yes, I would do it. Okay, so needs running backs. Khalil Herbert's his RB2 and got hurt. Team is Kirk Cousins, Breece Hall, Herbert, who is hurt, Jamar Chase, good wide receivers. Jamar Chase, Cooper Kupp, Jalen Waddle, George Kittle, Godwin, Benjes Dobbs, JSN, Richardson, Zay Jones, Hunt, Parker, and a kicker. Okay. Let's hope Anthony Richardson goes on IR so you can clear that roster spot. I would look at Tony Jones, who we just talked about. I would pick him up. He could end up becoming a flex for you or something. But you're stacked at wide receiver, so obviously that's where we're going to. If you could trade... Waddle just had a pretty good week, didn't he? Again, Waddle's going to be a player who's just inconsistent. It kind of is what it is. Not that good of a week, I guess. 5 catches, 35 yards, and a touchdown. If you can trade Waddle and JSN, Waddle and Romeo Doubs if he goes off tonight, something like that, and get a respectable running back, that's what I would do. I think Chris Godwin's more than capable of being a solid wide receiver 3 for you. And then you'll have the RB2, and then you can figure out that flex. That's what I would do. But there's some running backs available probably that are halfway respectable. And like I said, Tony Jones could end up being that. He's going to be a cheap pickup this week. Could be interesting. Jack. Jake Ferguson and Ramondre for Aaron Jones. Is that fair? It's fair. I don't know if I would do it. I like trading away Jake Ferguson just because I think that is more of a timeshare at tight end in Dallas than what most people realize. Ramondre was a buy low for me last week, and I still believe that going forward. There's the only direction for the New England offense to go is up. Will it go up? We don't know. I assume it will. But like Ramondre is getting the snaps. He has the role. He's going to be good, right? They just need to have some sort of a passing threat. Right now, their wide receivers and tight ends can't break man coverage, which means they can just load the box and just play the run. If they can figure out a way to move the ball and pass the ball at least a little bit, I think Ramondre Stevenson's going to be decent. But I don't blame you for doing this trade whatsoever. I'm just a little bit lower on Aaron Jones just because I know the mind of Matt LaFleur, which is relatively non-existent, and I know how the Packers will use Aaron Jones on a consistent basis, which is not consistently, unfortunately. So is it a fair trade? Yes. Is it the trade I would make? Probably not. I would look for a different running back if I'm looking to trade away Ferguson and Ramondre. So would I try to trade Swift and another player for like Pacheco or Kenneth Walker? For Walker, yes. Pacheco's coming on, I suppose. I don't think that's enough of an upgrade for me. Like, I'm not saying DeAndre Swift is a must sell, but I think a lot of people value him as an RB1 or at least close to it. So if I can trade Swift and somebody else for an RB1, I would do that. I don't value Pacheco as an RB1, and I don't think Kenneth Walker would be a strong enough RB1 for me to pull the trigger on that. But if you can do Swift and a player for ETN, Swift and a player for maybe Breece Hall, Swift and a player for something like that, that's what I would do. But I'm not looking... I think it's a relatively lateral move to go to Pacheco and possibly even Walker, so not looking for that. Who would I flex, though? What kind of running backs would I target? Let me look at your team again. I think you can flex Zay Jones. I think you can flex... there's probably better people available. I can't remember. Is this a 10 team? But if you traded Waddle and if it's a wide receiver needy team and you could go Waddle and another wide receiver, you can get a respectable RB2 and an upgrade at flex. I think people really like Waddle. Rightfully so. Great offense. I think he's a solid player. I just think his role is inconsistent. But you can get something. And if you can't get something for Waddle that really is great, truthfully, And it's going to be a hard trade to do for you, I assume, and it would be hard for me to do as well. You can sell Jamar Chase after this massive week. If fantasy football is a stock market, which is how I like to think of it a lot, if we're selling high and buying low, you would be selling high for Jamar Chase. So if you could sell Jamar Chase for a very good running back and another very solid flex. And at that point, let's just say you got Breece Hall, solid RB2, Cooper Kupp, Jalen Waddle, Chris Godwin, Kittle, and solid flex. That's probably an upgrade, right? Over Hall and, I guess you don't really have a backup running back. So put feelers out there for everybody. Make it known that everybody is available. I would look to sell Waddle first. I don't hate selling George Kittle either. Obviously, again, selling high. 3 touchdown night. I think his role is relatively inconsistent. We know George Kittle's going to get hurt at some point because of how physical he plays. So you might be able to find a decent replacement tight end on waivers. You might be able to trade for a decent one. If you could go Kittle and Waddle for Darren Waller and good running back too, that's fine. Something like that, So yeah, just sell high. But that's where I think I'm going to leave it. I appreciate you all for coming out. Subscribe so you don't miss any more streams and videos and stuff like that. I love the questions. I love answering you guys' questions. You can continue to ask questions when I'm off air. Go to the Fantasy Football by Committee Facebook group. If you're watching on YouTube, as many of you are, there is a link in the description. Go over there, join it. You can ask questions anonymously if you're worried about people seeing, the advice that you're getting. Otherwise, you can just ask questions to myself, the other hosts of the show, and other people in the community. And you can answer other people's questions as well. It's a good community to help you win your league, help others win their league. And my rankings are dropped in there every week. Obviously, the streams are in there, other articles, and you can share articles as well. Let's make it the #1 fantasy football community, #1 football community on the internet. That is the hope. That is the goal. So go do that, join that, subscribe, and we'll be back soon. For sure, we will be live Wednesday night, 7 p.m. Central, right here once again. See you then.